destruction displayed right now to our viewers are evident. Can you please tell us, where are we right now? It used to be the industrial part of the city. We used to have different enterprises here, like carpentry. It was a place where wooden furniture used to be done. We also had here a gas station. And that is the building, that what used to be a building of a designer center where the drawings and designs for the buildings used to be done. We have a gas station nearby and also residential buildings, 5-story buildings. How many people are now left jobless? I can't say for sure all the data and estimates, but in my experience, because I also used to work here in a firm nearby, I can say that it would be 50, 100, maybe even 200 people. If we look at this small pot, we used to have a lot of firms, a lot of companies, a lot of offices, about 100, 200 people. In the morning of the 24th of February, I woke up and my parents told that the war had broken out. I couldn't understand what they had meant by that, and then we heard two huge explosions. Everything at home started shaking. At that point, I wasn't still able to fully believe in that, but that very day, we live outside almost the city. We saw tanks, military equipment, and we could hear all these horrible sounds. We saw the military, and we were worrying in our hearts, but still there wasn't yet full comprehension of the fact that the war had broken out. And then, when you wake up in the morning, you go outside, you look around, there is smoke there, fire there, everything is aflame. And that was quite good understanding that the war had broken out. The first thing was to get home. There were no trains. I started calling everyone, the 4 men from Chernihiv, so that somebody could take us home, because still they were able to find a car, and they sent the car. And when we were going to Chernihiv, we didn't drive across the bridge, across the snow, but we went through Shestovitsa, and when we were in Shestovitsa, there were 2 tanks already there. It was stress. It was like a cold shower, that already the 2 tanks are there. You had thought that if the war would break out, Russia is far away, but no, it's very close. I was asked to take to hospital the sheets as bandaging material. I collected some sheets myself, and something was donated to me, and I was trying to get to the hospital. But our hospital is at the outskirts of the city, and I was going there by bicycle because it was impossible to go there by car. And that was about maybe 1 kilometer. And when I heard machine gun fire, I understood that I couldn't get there. When I was going on my way back, everything around me was being bombed. And it was the first time when I started chanting Pranama mantra to my Guru Maharaj and Pranama mantra to Nrisimhadeva. Everything that I could remember, I was chanting, and when I was able to get out of there, I understood it's real war. And I gave those sheets to volunteering center, and I understood that the life had changed dramatically. It is war. We understood that the war had broken out, but still every day We wanted to think that it would last a day, 2 days, 3 days, and every time we were hoping tomorrow it would be over. And there was that thought and that hope that it would not last too long. On the 28th, they entered Chistovice. About a day or two, there was fighting already, we could hear explosions, it was all there. And in a day, I guess, there was no electricity, and then, with no electricity, we also were left without water. There was no water, and in about a few days we no longer had the heating. And for some people could use the flashlights sometimes to read some books, because we were in the cellars, there was light and then there was no longer light, and we had to go to the post office and there was some battery and we could charge a phone there. As long as curfew was over at 6 a.m, you very fast run there, you stand in line and you can get charge from the sun batteries, your devices. Once I was standing there 5 hours until my device is 100% charged. We also had some troubles with water, but I was going to a place 5 kilometers from where I was staying at that point, because we had water spring there. I took first 10, then 15, then I arranged something like a luggage carrier on my bike. I took up to 20 liters, 22, 25, and I tried to give it to somebody, left something for myself, of course. I was taking that water because we must be up to the standard, wash clothes and take bath, and we were cooking outside in the fire in the backyard. I gathered some wood and somehow we were getting by. There was the feeling of simplicity, but it was very cold. Those first days when the jet fighters were bombing, it was not yet full comprehension, and we looked, oh, interesting, a little bit scary, everything is burning, etc. But then, when serious explosions started, you begin to realize that it is for real. But the most scary thing was when we had Grads, multiple projectile launchers, and anti-aircraft gun that was close to our house. But still, jet fighters is the scariest thing. When there were bombings and shellings, I wasn't yet able to understand where our armed forces were shooting and where the enemy forces were shooting. I couldn't understand whether those explosions are our army or it's the enemy army. Bombs and artillery on our territory. We used to have oil terminal close to us. Thanks God there was no oil there. There was huge explosion there. On the other hand, Pavlivka village, we once saw how grads shelled the street, and every street, all the street was on fire. But still, I was more or less calm, but I saw that the rest of my family were taking it in a very difficult manner, and in 3 weeks we decided to leave. As I had a lot of duties to take care of, I understood that in the morning I must chant my rounds. We had a lot of information, a lot of bad news, but I couldn't help reading them because I wanted to be up to speed, because my mother was in the Vyshhorod close to Kiev and I was very much worried about her. I understood that if I don't chant japa attentively, or if I didn't have time in the morning, that would cause serious trouble. Once a panic attack hit me, for real, because that day I didn't chant my rounds, but I was reading the news, and I was just in a very difficult situation, in a very bad condition, and it took me 2 days to recover, and then I understood that I must pray. First, I must be absorbed, and I must pray properly, and I must chant attentively, and that helped. Have left, a lot of devotees have left, mostly families. There were not so many of us, about 10 people in Chernihiv, and the number of devotees who have left Chernihiv is quite substantial, because active devotees, the devotees who used to do a lot of service and were such foundation for the yatra. My wife and I were remembering that it was about 11 families have left. It's quite a lot for Chernihiv. It's about 50% of the devotees. At first while we had connection, we tried to call the devotees who either were alone at home, or if they were with parents who don't practice Krishna consciousness and they only watch the news, and some of them were all the time in the cellars, air shelters. Of course, there were different people, but sometimes maybe there weren't devotees around. I had a plan to get the deities, to put them in the box and then go to war after I have put them in the garage, but I wasn't taken in the army. I was told I'm too old, and because of my health condition they didn't take me. The garage was bombed, and the deities didn't want to be in that box. And I couldn't take all the deities with me because different deities were taken to me Buddha and very different deities, and I understood that I couldn't take them all and I couldn't take some of the deities and leave the others behind, so I decided to stay put, so somehow we would survive, and we pulled through. I didn't have that feeling that I have to go. Maybe it's wrong. Now, looking back at it, maybe it was a reasonable idea to flee when the war breaks out on the one hand. Yet on the other hand, I guess we should live together as yatra, because during the war I understood that in order to survive, in terms of the consciousness, it's possible only together. So the power is in association. The one who serves the rest, others, for that person, good consciousness remains. And the war somehow passes by. The ones who withdraw into themselves, they start suffering a lot. And people who live their usual lives, they are trying to look for some help outside, and it was destroyed externally and internally. There is no houses, all the standards of life. Once we didn't have electricity and we were looking for electricity and asking around, maybe we can have a place where we can charge our phones. And there was a man. We asked him, "Do you have light?" He looked at us and he said, "Do you have light?" And we said, "No, we don't have electricity." And that man said, "I don't have a house." There was emptiness in his eyes. I had a wonderful house here, huge house, and a shed. And my daughter's house, also nothing left. So, is it the God's wish then? So, maybe you just take it away, straight away. It's not clear what happens. So, if the person is no longer needed, please let him die, straight away. The person should know. Why can't we foresee it? Why should it be like that? Why does God do this? We don't know. We don't have anything. Where to go? What should we do? In 2 months there is winter. What? Where to go? Nobody cares about us. Nobody. Hare Krishna, those guys come and feed us every day. They give us rice soup with carrots, very tasty, and herbal tea, wonderful. I was afraid. I used to think that I'm spiritually developed, but when you understand that you could die any time now, any second, you understand you haven't yet spiritually developed, you don't have anything. Now you die, and then what? What form of life are you going to get? I was afraid. But on the other hand, there was this experience, spiritual experience, when all the people join together, when we need to find some food, some groceries, water. We had no water, no electricity, only heating was there sometimes, and people started being together. Everybody was asking we could go along the street and we could see a stranger, and then it was possible to communicate with them, to ask them as a neighbor, as an acquaintance. When you hear it very close, you understand that a bomb, a projectile can hit any house, and in such intense moments, I was visualizing Srila Prabhupada's form when you could physically feel that you are holding on to his dhoti. You understand there is no guarantee that your life will be saved. Even if you look at your lifeline on your palm, you understand you can be annihilated by the material nature at any minute. Thanks God, I haven't lost any people who I care, because I know that many people have lost a lot of people who passed away because of the war. But I understood that at one point I must be ready for the fact that I may leave my body. At some point we were having dinner at about 5, and at that point the shelling started. And usually every day we knew that after dinner we sat to chant kirtan. We had very deep kirtans because everybody was praying. And from many devotees I have heard, to whom I have talked, that those kirtans, during that kirtan you pray, because at that point thoughts flood your mind and you understand that it's important for you to hear the holy name. And I personally also had that mood because it was already dark. It was dark at the house, and I wanted for the warriors, so that would be like a lullaby, so that they would stop shooting and they wouldn't kill each other and they wouldn't harm civilians. I had that motherly mood. I remembered that because it's relevant for me. Krishna manifested himself. I guess it was like Paramatma from within the heart, because we also had a point when we were together with my mother chanting japa outside, because at home it was very cold and it was warmer outside, so we were trying to be outside more. We were chanting japa, and we decided at some point that we need to go to a different place. And as long as we left our house, we heard some explosions, some huge noise, and people are coming from there, and they say a projectile hit the block of flats where there is a pharmacy, and there were 3 houses close, and there were pharmacies in each of them. We were worried, and we understood that it wasn't our house that was hit by a projectile, but it was close. So if we had stayed there, all that projectile fragments could have hit us, because we saw so much glass everywhere. If we had been chanting there, maybe we would not have been chanting there anymore. There was some intuition. I guess it becomes more acute thanks to Paramatma that you should go there and do there. It was very difficult because we had artillery in our neighborhood, and maybe they knew that there used to be a military base close to our place, and the house was shaking, and understood that with each hit, every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, it was closer and closer and closer, and I understood it's coming. It's not just shaking. It's almost swinging. I saw that I have deities and I came to Giriraj. I stood on my knees and I asked Giriraj, please, do what you used to do before. If you think that it should be done, if you think that I can still be useful, please, give us that umbrella. If you need us here, please, make that umbrella and cover us, and then, be as it may. And then I was pacified, and I was going outside from time to time because I couldn't be all the time in a raid shelter, and when everything was over, I came out and I saw projectile fragment in our yard, so that umbrella worked. It was like you hear all the time that there are sufferings in the material world, that it's not a worth place of staying, but you hear it in theory, but when you face it in practice, when you see, I understood that this conflict cannot be resolved by anything, no matter, unless we change consciousness. People need to change consciousness, they shouldn't be changing flags or borders or anything like that. I saw my real Krsna consciousness level when I am without devotees, without good conditions and environment for practice, how much I can practice myself. In fact, I cannot. And I need devotees association, their support. And in that society, in that association of devotees, I can serve. That was my realization. It was some enlightenment. The feeling that there are no chances, there are no illusions left, that you would live forever. Those illusions dissipated at some point, and then you start chanting attentively, and at that point you a little bit relax. You understand that if it is meant to be, that we all remain here. I was just hugging my child clother. I understood that I am attached to her, but in general, I confessed myself the other week that I am not yet ready to leave this body, and I felt that the Lord is close. I was praying, and I felt that the Lord responds. Even when we were leaving, it was just a miracle. I cannot say that it was by dint of my prayer, but after the prayer, somebody came and somebody said that the village was deoccupied and we could leave, and we just left spontaneously. It was not prearranged. This war, for me, has shown a lot. First, I stopped paying attention to petty things that don't really matter. I was trying to chant a lot. Now I understand that there are a lot of books yet to read, and I need to ask forgiveness from somebody with something. I need to talk another time, just to have the darshan of the deities another time. And sometimes it happens that you don't know whether you reach home or not. And I felt all the Vaisnavas' support. I could feel it. And it was Thursday when the war broke out. And next Thursday, we were yet still holding the Mahata, but already at home, because at the place where we usually holding it, it was problematic to get there. It was a full-fledged Namahatha, a very concentrated one. We were reading Bhagavad Gita and having prasadam, and we had very concentrated association. It was very Krishna consciousness filled, without any distracted conversations. Everyone was very concentrated and very calm. During the war, I wanted to become a devotee. I was looking at other devotees who were praying so intensely, and thanks to the fact that the devotees were praying, not the whole city had been destroyed, because if it hadn't been for the prayers, everything would have been much more horrible. I could feel it. I could feel that power of the prayer. It's 100% such synergy on the part of all the devotees. And it's not only in Chernihiv and in Kiev, because I go to Kiev most of all. Sometimes we have Bhaktis and Hamas. But I saw that ISKCON is much more. There are many devotees from different countries who care. And it strengthens the faith. It gives a lot of impetus for spiritual life. I can rely on ISKCON, I can rely on Srila Prabhupada. That's why I'm very thankful to all these devotees. They helped me, not only financially, when I needed that, but they also helped to understand that we are in a family, in a big Srila Prabhupada's family.